So just a little bit about myself. I've been licensed for 14 years. I got into real estate actually as a second generation real estate investor. So as an investor first before an agent. Broker associate with eXp Realty. I've been with them for 8.5 years. Also co-owner of OKC Home Investments with my husband, where we have flipped hundreds of homes. And if you want to take our real estate investing class, I think it's coming up maybe next week. Anyway, it's in the CE lineup where we show you how we turned our initial $25,000 investment into a multi-million-dollar portfolio in less than 5 years. So that's something that we're very passionate about, is not only teaching agents how to have a more sustainable and successful real estate business, but also creating that ultimate financial freedom, which we'll talk about in today's class, of investing in yourself, investing in your business, and what that ultimate goal is. Master lead generator. I have a team of about 8 agents and a group of almost 2,000 agents all over the world with my husband, where we help agents and coach and train them to become more successful. And just like you, married and mother of 2 wonderful boys. So definitely trying to balance that work life, if there is a balance, right? Quick disclaimer, some of the things I'm going to be going over today are generic, but definitely check with your local guidelines, because we have people all over the state here, as well as your managing broker, because every company is going to have different policies and procedures. So the first thing that we have to start off with here is run your career like a business. And that's really what the biggest challenge is. I don't know about you guys, but I hear new real estate agents get in all the time, new licensees. They think that they're going to get in, they're going to get licensed, and buyers and sellers are going to fall from the sky. Now, just curious, and I'm going to open up your cameras. Raise your hand if buyers and sellers just fall from the sky for you guys. Anybody? Nope. I didn't think so, because in the reality, that's not the case. So, I think there's an NAR stat that 87% of new licensees get out of the business within the first 2 years. So they basically don't renew their license. And one of the biggest reasons for that is because they don't have the proper expectations. A lot of people see these fancy shows, HGTV, all these other shows, and they see the selling $1 million homes, but they don't know all the hard work that's gone in the back end. And so you have to run it like a business. Otherwise, it's a hobby. And I don't know about you all, but real estate's an inexpensive hobby at that. So you don't want to make it a hobby. I think I saw a statistic last week that 60,000 agents have already gotten out of the business year to date, which is crazy to think of. So it's very unfortunate. But again, a lot of it goes to setting those proper expectations and treating it like a business. So the first question you have to ask yourself, and you really, really have to be honest, is would you hire you? And the reality is you are the CEO of your own business. The day that you get licensed, the day that you hang your license with a brokerage, you are the CEO of your own business. So I actually shared on my Facebook stories over the weekend, there was a group of penguins. It sounds silly, I know, but there was a group of penguins that were floating along on the ice, and all of a sudden the ice broke off and there was one penguin by himself, and all the other penguins just ran away and didn't even try to help their friend. Luckily he jumped and he was able to get back to safety. But my point in saying that is you can't blame anyone else for your lack of business or lack of profitability. You have to take 110% ownership. So it's not your brokerage fault. It's not your team leader's fault. It's not your broker owner's fault. You should be successful wherever you are. Now, with that said, you definitely have to find a vehicle that's going to be the fastest vehicle for you to get to your goals. So in all honesty, you have to look in the mirror and be able to ask yourself, would you hire you? If you went in to apply for a job and you had to list out everything that you're doing right now in order to grow your business, and you could not genuinely say that you're doing everything possible, then the answer would probably be no. And I mention this because when I talk with agents, one of the first questions I always ask is, what are the prospecting activities? What are you doing to work in your business every single day? And it's a lot of times it's like, oh, I put a Facebook post out here. I talked to somebody here, but it's not consistent effort. And so the next big question you have to ask yourself is, are you a business owner or are you a business operator? Now, I'm going to open the cameras back up again and just raise your hand if you got into real estate to become a business owner. Just raise your hand. Nobody got in here to become a business owner? I see Liz raise her hand. Jason. Okay, Rakita. All right. So good. Everybody's in agreement that we want to be a business owner. The challenge is, and this is something I learned from Tony Robbins, is most real estate agents are operating in their business instead of being an actual owner. So the question you ask yourself is, if you stepped away from your business, would your business grow or die? Go ahead and put in the chat. It's okay. We can be completely honest here. If you stepped away from your business today, would your business grow or die? Jillian said die. Pratish, die. Jason, die. Liz, die. Okay. So this is the harsh truth, right? And the reality is, if you're saying that your business would die, like we look at real estate agents, for example, when they go on vacation, I always say that they pay for their vacation twice. They pay for the actual vacation that they went on, but then they come back and they pay for all the mistakes of work that they had. So you're actually paying for it twice. The reality is you've become a business operator instead of a business owner. A business owner could leverage themselves to where they could actually step away from their business. And not only would it hold sustainable, it would actually grow. So if you're newer to real estate, maybe this is something that you kind of grow into. If you've been in the industry for a while, it's food for thought, is how can you leverage yourself to where your business would not die if you stepped away? Do you have a measurable plan, or are you flying day by day? Do you know exactly what you should be doing every single day, every single week, every single month? If you took the business plan class, I hope you've taken time to fill out your business plan and you actually have a measurable plan and action items that you should be focusing on every single day. Most agents that I talk to are kind of flying by the seat of their pants and just letting all these fires distract them, and they get away from the actual income producing activities that they should be focusing on. The last one on here is, do you take time to self-evaluate? This is huge, and I think it's incredibly underrated. One of the best things that you can do is not only take time to create a business plan and know everything that you should be working on every single day, but also evaluating it, taking time to think. My husband and myself, we don't revisit our goals once a week, once a month, once a quarter, once a year. We literally do what we call meeting of the minds, where we sit down every single morning. We strategize for about 15 minutes to 30 minutes uninterrupted. Our kids know not to interrupt us during this time. And we evaluate and hold ourselves accountable, because the reality is nobody's going to care more about us and our business and our family than ourselves. So if we're not going to hold each other accountable, who's going to? Also, it's important to self-evaluate so you make sure that you're right on track, because you could have this annual plan, but I don't know about you guys, but like this year has completely derailed and gone a whole different direction than what I had expected. So what I was in my mind as far as goals and things and the direction I was going to go on January 1st is much different today on June 26th. But because I knew exactly where I wanted to go and how I want to get there, I was able to pivot very quickly, and no doubt we'll still be able to achieve those goals just in a different manner by the end of the year. That's why it's important to self-evaluate. I had a top producer tell me this years and years ago that's always stuck with me. And she's a local top producer. And she said, Micah, the difference between me and you is I'm always just hitting the ground running. You sit down and take time to think. And that's where you've been able to leverage better than others. And so she's a top producer, very well known in the industry, incredibly profitable, but her business is still contingent upon her, meaning she's still an operator and not an owner over a decade later. So just a few things to kind of initially think about. Ask yourself, how much could you earn if you were well prepared and practiced? We talked about this in the script master class that we did 2 weeks ago. Is every other profession must practice? Why should it be any different than a real estate agent? So the more how much we get paid is in direct proportion by how much we practice, we prepare, and how well planned out we are. And one of the best things that you can do is ask, why did you get into real estate? So I asked everybody earlier, would your business grow or die? And everybody said that their business would die if they stepped away from their business. But if I asked all of you when you originally got into real estate, what were your goals? Go ahead and let's just go ahead and open up the chat. Why did you originally get into real estate? To be your own boss, to be an owner, to have unlimited possibilities, financial freedom? Why did you originally get licensed? Let's go ahead and put that in the chat. Pritesh said investments. Jason said focus mostly on investing. Liz, freedom to make your own path. Jillian, to be your own boss. Flexibility to be a present involved mother. Love it. Perfect. So it's important to know that and to know why you originally got into real estate. So many of you said investments, maybe to learn the industry, to maybe make some more in commissions, so then you can be able to invest it back into real estate. So it's kind of full circle. If you got in for the flexibility of owning your own schedule, if you got in it for financial freedom, it's important to know all these things, because then you ask yourself, are you fulfilling those goals today? If you don't remind yourself of why you originally got in, then we're kind of going blindfolded, and we don't know if we're fulfilling those goals. So the number one reason you will fail is your own mindset. It's a harsh reality, but mindset is the key to success. So we start by defining our goals. And I love the analogy or the acronym of SMART goals. Becoming more intentional on every appointment and call that you make. Now, of course, everybody's going to have limiting beliefs. I don't want to call now because I'm bothering them. We talked about that in the script master class. There is no perfect time to call someone. Of course, follow the do not call registry and things like that, and whatever the procedures are of your brokerage. But the reality is of looking between 8 and 9 and 9 and 10 or 1 to 2, there is no perfect time. People are always going to be busy. So you have to get over that limiting belief and just pick up the phone and start calling. Whether that's for sell by owners, expireds, your past clients, your sphere. It doesn't mean you're cold calling, but you're reaching out to people and engaging. You must set a power hour. We've talked about this in the business plan class. 1 hour every day for intentional conversations to people in your database and new prospects. Don't be afraid to ask for the appointment or referral. We always say, don't be a secret agent. Nobody can read your mind. So don't be a secret agent. Let everybody know that you do. But the reason why I have this is 1 hour every day for intentional conversations is if you don't time block it and turn off all over the notifications, all other distractions, then you're going to blow through that hour or 2 hours very quickly and really not have gotten anything accomplished. So you have to be very intentional in your conversations and what you want the outcome to be. Start first thing in the morning, get the most undesired task completed first. That's incredibly important. If you hate cold calling and cold calling is going to be part of your arsenal and you're going to start prospecting every single day, I would recommend do it first thing in the morning, because if you don't and you start doing all the more fun tasks, then it's just really mentally going to bog you down throughout the entire day. Of course, as we've talked about, set expectations and know the average conversions, because if you don't, you may lead generate 100 leads and you're going to expect to convert all 100 leads. And we know that's just not reality. So I think the national average about 1 to 2%, 3% if you're lucky or higher. SMART goals, specific. What do you want to do? So we talked about, why did you originally get into real estate? Are you fulfilling that? Measurable. How will you track your progress? Achievable. How will you do it? So we always know that we can figure out the how if we know the why. Relevant. Is this relevant to your life right now? So be willing to also have detours and pivot. If you're going to go cross country from Florida to California, I would imagine you're going to have some kind of GPS or map. And chances are, if you're going that far, then you are going to hit some detours and have to pivot. But if you have a map, you can pivot from that detour pretty quickly. Business is no different. You should know exactly where you want to go, how you're going to get there, but then allow for detours. Time bound. When do you want to do it? So a goal is just a wish without a specific time frame. So we want to be reasonable. We want to set expectations, but say, okay, in the next 90 days, I'm going to commit to calling 10 people a day. And out of those 10 people a day, I expect to get 3 closings per month. So create specific, measurable, and time specific actions around what you're trying to do. Pull up the chat here, see if we have any questions. Okay. So as Tony Robbins would say, your why must make you cry. We've talked about really tying some emotion to your why. If you can't just say that I want to make $200,000 a year and we don't have any kind of emotion tied to it. And so it has to be something that's going to drive you every single day, that you literally jump out of bed excited because it's driving you. And so for the days that you don't want to prospect or you don't want to do the boring task, it's going to really help you overcome those things. So you need to wake up every day in the right mindset. I am a firm believer of playing some kind of motivational video or music or upbeat something to get you excited in the morning. So setting your day right in the morning, even as simple as little things of making your own bed. In my book, one of my chapters is make your bed. By doing that simple little task first thing in the morning, it helps you feel like you've conquered the rest of the day and just really setting your day up for success. Ask yourself, are you a downer, a dreamer, or a doer? Downers are the people that are always negative. I'm going through some of these pretty quickly because some of this is a recap from other classes that we've taken. Downers always negative. Dreamer has good intentions. They want to do things, but they're not necessarily action takers. And then the doers are the ones that don't make excuses. They name their own paychecks, and outside circumstances are not going to stop them. So you don't have to put this in the chat, but just ask yourself, are you being a downer, dreamer, or doer? Which one do you want to be? And then, of course, adapt your mindset accordingly. It's also important to keep a journal near you at all times to write down your ideas, opportunities, and areas for investment. Has anybody had like the best idea ever in the middle of the night, or maybe as you're laying your head down on the pillow and you want to go to sleep, or maybe even in the shower, you've had the best idea? I don't know about you guys, but that's really when your subconscious is coming to life, when you've kind of taken time to relax, rest, and your subconscious is telling you what you already know, what you already need to know in order to get something done. So in those times, it's important to keep a journal with you. That way you can write them down. Your brain is the most powerful tool we have, as in it's a muscle, obviously. So exercise it daily. All right. So last week we talked about the 3 R's: relationships, referrals, and reputation being the lifeblood of your business. Just a quick recap. These 3 things are the lifeblood. You have to protect them with everything, as it all goes hand in hand. No business will survive without a constant flow of new relationships and referrals. With that else said, always putting your personal and professional reputation on the highest level. This is why many brokerages encourage their agents to leave personal, political, religious beliefs at the door. So have you guys ever seen that social media agent that is maybe making some religious references or political references, and you're just thinking, why would you do that? The reality is, if you do something like that, and maybe if you strongly believe it, which is okay, but the reality is you might really upset some of your sphere. You might really upset future clients. So you have to ask yourself, that one social media post could have cost you maybe thousands of dollars in business. Was it truly worth it? And if you think it was, well, then, to each their own, but try to keep personal, political, religious beliefs at the door. Those are personal things, in my honest opinion. Get away from distractions and become hyper-focused. Either time block your schedule or create a priority task list for the day. So the reason why I have either or is because I think in real estate, a lot of us teach time blocking, which is great. But sometimes you can either do both or you can do one or the other. Some people do not, like my husband does not operate on a time block schedule. If you put a blocked schedule calendar in front of him with his ADHD, that will just drive him nuts. What he does operate off of is a priority task list for the day. What are the things that I absolutely have to get done today that's non-negotiable? I will make sure at the end of the day that I've accomplished something, whether it's big or small. So go ahead and put in the chat whether you currently use a time block schedule, a task list, or you don't use anything at all. And that's okay. Let's be honest. Jason says he uses both. Liz, task list. Remember, we want to make sure that we're participating. Yaddy, both. Rakita's all over the place. I appreciate the honesty. So Rakita, you can put this in the chat. Are you looking to implement some kind of time block schedule or priority? Jillian, I go off of a list, all aspects of my life. Perfect. Great. She said, absolutely. Awesome. So just kind of see what works for you and try to pick one or the other, or maybe a mix of both. As we already talked about, get the most boring tasks completed first. If you don't, they'll drag you out throughout the entire day. Create a prospecting hour first thing in the morning. Block out time to think and reflect. The worst enemy of success is not continuing to grow. Consistency matters. Not doing an activity today could put you months behind. I'm a firm believer of this. You know, a lot of times, so I've always kind of lived off the remember tomorrow phrase by Jesse Itzler, and he's a motivational speaker. His wife is Sarah Blakely, who started Spanx. If you guys know that, I think she's like the youngest self-made billionaire. And in hearing him speak, he's always talked about remember tomorrow. What are the activities that you can do today that your tomorrow self will thank you? And I even do this in my personal life when it comes to boring tasks. Like for me, laundry, dishes, all these little fun things, not fun things, are boring. But I think, okay, if I do this tonight, that's going to free up more time tomorrow. And I'm going to say, thank goodness, because now I have other things that I can work on. So I think it was mentioned in the chat that Eric, work on a priority task list in all areas of your life. I operate with this method on all areas of my life of remembering tomorrow. What can I do today that my future self will thank me for? What are you benefiting on the reverse? What are you benefiting from today from the work that you did 90 days ago? So if an agent comes to me and says, I don't have any business right now, number one, I'm going to say, what kind of prospecting are you doing? Okay. What prospecting are you doing today? But more importantly, what prospecting activities did you do 90 days ago to get business today? Because we all know that real estate operates in a 90-day cycle. So the reality is, the good thing is you can reset every 90 days. If you're not on track for the year, then push a reset button and you can still hit your goals. We're not operating on a 365-day year. But at the same time, if you're not busy today and I asked you what you did 90 days ago and you said, oh, well, I took off for the month of March. I went on spring break. I didn't really prospect. I didn't do anything. So I'm going to say, okay, well, the reality is you're paying for the activities you did or didn't do 90 days ago. So think about that for now in the future. The activities you're doing today you're going to reap the benefits in September. And so the reality is we're not typically going to see the benefit right away. But if you build that pipeline, that's where it's going to be sustainable. So are you constantly planting new seeds and harvesting existing ones? 80% of your success comes from 20% of your efforts. So remember when I talked about 80% of us, or most of us, are thinking about strategy, how to. Well, the reality is strategy is only about 20% of your success. 80% comes from mindset and psychology. So if you think about that, 80% of your success comes from 20% of your efforts. What are those itty bitty things that you're doing every single day that compound over time into what some might see as an overnight success? So just a few definitions as we kind of do a deeper dive here is, do you have a P&L, profit and loss statement? If you don't have one, I'm happy to send one to you. If you attended my business planning class, you should have one. Closing ratio, how many appointments versus closed deals? This is really important to track. If you're going on 100 appointments and you're only closing one deal out of that, you might need to be looking at some of your scripting, or maybe some of the energy that you're giving off to the potential client, or have somebody shadow you just to kind of give you some honest feedback. So it's important to know what your personal appointment ratio is versus closed deal. What's your average sales price? What's your bread and butter? So maybe I say, okay, I want to become a luxury agent. I want to work, $500,000 and up in the Oklahoma City market. I want to work $1 million homes. Well, great. But if that's not the bread and butter of the market, maybe that's not the market that's selling right now. Those homes are sitting on the market 6, 9, 12 months out of the year before they ever sell. So what I always recommend is look at the market. What's the average sales price? If the average sales price is $285,000, go a little bit above or below that and try to stick in what's selling with the biggest buyer pool. Average commission. Are you a full service agent or are you a discount agent? There's no right or wrong. You just have to know what your particular business plan is. As I mentioned at the very beginning of this call, we're so ingrained with thinking about I sold 100 houses this year, or I sold $10 million or $20 million. But the reality is you could take two agents that are both selling $10 million in gross volume and have completely different profitability, maybe in terms of one's a full service agent, one's a discount agent, one's maybe putting more money toward marketing and one is not. Maybe one has systems in place and one doesn't. So we can't just focus on the gross volume because that can really be deceptive. And with that, you need strategy, systems, and support in place. Create an entity, seek the advice of an attorney or an accountant on legal and tax benefits. How many of you right now either have some kind of entity set up, whether it's an LLC, C Corp, S Corp, something that you get paid into? You can just say yes or no. You don't have to give us the details. Okay, so it's about 50-50, yes and no. Disclaimer, I'm not an attorney. I am not a tax accountant. So definitely seek advice of one of those professionals. But in my experience, it's always been, from what I've heard, the best if the agent sets up some type of entity to be able to get paid into for tax purposes. So all in all, just saying that is you might want to have that conversation with your professional. Income, buyers, sellers, referrals, leases. I talked about this in the business planning class. I have one of my agent partners in Arizona. She doesn't just divide down how much her hourly worth is, but she knows what her hourly worth is for representing a buyer, representing a seller, and even representing or sending out a referral. So now she can strategize. And what she found was she gets paid more on buyers and referrals than she does sellers. So now she starts adjusting all of her marketing toward identifying that. Now, you don't have to dive that deep, but at least knowing where your income is coming from and knowing your hourly worth is important. Cost of sale, referral fees, listing, buyer, agent split, brokerage fees. If you're on a team, marketing, staging, photography, how much does it cost you to actually transact that sale? And then general expenses are your marketing dollars, lead generation, your car, your insurance, your supplies, your board dues, your technology, salaries, education, CE classes, if you have a mentor or coach, the list goes on and on. So the difference between cost of sale and expenses, of course, expenses are how much does it cost you to run your business versus cost of sale? How much does it actually cost you to transact that particular transaction? So I asked everybody at the very beginning of this, if you knew your numbers and you knew that it cost you on average $300 to transact a sale, would you do it? And I think everybody raised their hand, yes. So that's why it's so important to track your cost per lead, what your average ratio is in terms of conversion, how many appointments you need to set versus how many deals you're going to close. And if I know in this one example that I gave earlier, that if I could do 30 leads, and I know those 30 leads are going to bring one sale, and each lead costs me $10. Maybe you're doing the Google PPC ad or something, $10 per lead. So to get those 30, I'm going to have that one sale. Now I know the average cost per transaction that it's going to cost me. But if you're going blindly and you're just setting up ad campaigns and you're not tracking your numbers, then that's where it can get a little more complicated. So in that example, I would know that it cost me $300 per transaction. So if my average price point was, say, $200,000 at 3% commission, if I'm making $6,000, this is just an example. Would you guys, put yes or no in the chat, be willing to invest $300 to get a return of $6,000? Yes or no? I see Jason said yes. Ricky, yep. Yeah, everybody said yes, right? So that's why it's so important to track the numbers, because I think everybody be in agreement. I would do this all day long, right? If I knew that I could invest $300 to make $6,000, then yes, I would do it. But you wouldn't know that if you weren't tracking your numbers. Now you've got to create a production plan. So we created our goals. We know the definitions. We created our P&L. Now we need to know how we're going to get there and have a production plan. So how are you going to build your business? You have to be working on your plan every single day. And plan stands for prospect, lead generate, appointments, and negotiating contracts. Where does your business currently come from? It's one of the most important questions, especially if you've been in the business over a year, is you can look at all the different sources of your business focus on where it's coming from and then focus on that one particular thing. Now, if you're newer to real estate and you're like, I haven't had any business yet, well, then you just got to get out there and start prospecting. And then over time, you'll be able to identify that. So nurture your sphere, past clients and potential clients. Do you consistently schedule a prospecting power hour every day? I keep pounding that throughout because it's incredibly, incredibly important. What are the 3 commitments in the next 12 months? So if you notice, I didn't say goals, I said commitments, and then I put a time frame. So when we talked about the SMART goals is being very specific, measurable, and putting a time frame on it. So think about, and let's take a minute to go ahead and everybody write these down. So I'm going to pull the cameras back up so I can see you guys writing. Write down. You don't have to share. This is something personal. What are your 3 commitments in the next 12 months? Not a goal, something that you can actually commit to. Here's an example. I'm going to commit to 2 open houses every single month. I'm going to commit to reaching out to my sphere, 5 sphere members every single day. I'm going to reach out to 10 people every day. I'm going to go to 2 networking events every single month. Whatever it is, what are you going to commit to? I see everybody writing, so that's good. If anybody wants to share, you're welcome to. I'll let you open up your mic. I'm not going to make you because I know these are kind of personal goals. Just give it a minute or two. Give everybody the opportunity to write that down. Does anybody want to share? Nope.
I'll say a couple of things that I've been planning on working on. First, I've been playing with the property boost in KV Core, generating leads through that and setting those up on campaigns and calling them, trying to build something, just building relationships through that, open houses, and then through my neighborhood has a HOA, and they're looking for people to volunteer with the pool or different things throughout the neighborhood. And I'm looking to volunteer more, get out there and meet more of the neighbors. And then also through our church, we have, and once a week we have Iron Sharpens Iron, where a bunch of folks meet at a restaurant every morning, and plan on attending that and just building more relationships there.
I love that. I love that you're very specific and had some different avenues. So thank you so much, Jason. You mentioned KV Core, by the way. If you want a drip campaign, we have one for our team that I'm happy to share. Just send me a message if that's of interest. And you can basically just copy that token code into your account and use the same campaign that we use. Awesome. Anybody else want to share? Oh, Jillian, you said you missed what we're supposed to be writing down. So what are 3 commitments in the next 12 months? I'm sorry, I just saw that in the chat. 3 commitments that you're willing to commit to in the next 12 months. Anyone else want to share? Awesome. Thank you, Jason. I appreciate you. So define your outcome, short-term versus long-term. Where are you going to be 30 days from now, 60 days, 90 days, 12 months, 3 to 5 years? Have it all mapped out. And it's really interesting. And I know some people think like, the law of attraction is taboo and things like that. But the reality is when you visualize where you're going to go, then it really does come to fruition. Now, you still have to put in the work. You can't just law of attraction and visualize it and then not put in the action. It's like going back to the road map example. If I visualize I want to go from Florida to California, but I don't actually get in the car and start driving, I'm not going to get very far, right? But when you visualize it, it gives you a place of where you want to go. And then you can start working backwards and understand the how, and then start working toward that. So know your short-term versus long-term. Everybody should know where you're going to be 5 years from now. Bring clarity to your business and life. Visualizing it, that's what's going to help you do that. I always recommend doing a vision board for this. I have an annual vision board that I have in my workspace, and it's a mix of personal and business. It's, working on my health, working on my family, but then also it has my business goals. Where do you want to be in the next 5 years? We talked about that. And what does it mean if you don't get there? Okay, this one is big. This is kind of like sometimes in order for us to get things done, we have to do a little jab to ourselves, right? And so if I say, I want to take, I want to make $200,000 this year because for Christmas, I want to take my family to Disney. Okay, perfect. Sounds great, right? It's a great goal to have. Now, you have to ask yourself, what happens if I don't reach that goal? I've got to look at my 2 kids in the eye and say, okay, I'm sorry. I didn't meet the quota this year. We can't go, right? You literally have to have those conversations with yourself. Or for me, when I got started, our youngest had some medical conditions that I had to pay, a lot of medical bills. So it was a do or die moment for us when we got started in our business. I didn't have a choice but to grow because the only other option was him not getting the medical services and things that he needed. And so if we kind of are realistic with ourselves, and not only where do we want to go, but what happens if you don't get there, then sometimes that gives us the power and the push that we ultimately need. So budgeting your numbers, we've got this budgeting form that you can track your numbers on a monthly basis as far as income, operating expenses, and cost of sale, all the things that we've talked about previously. And then of course your P&L, your profit and loss statement. Go ahead and put in the chat your email. If you'd like a copy of these documents, then we will be sending them out today. And then of course the Bulletproof Business Plan. I think everybody on here attended that class. If not, I'm happy to share our Bulletproof Business Plan. So just a quick recap. It's a 1-page document for simplicity. It's supposed to be a 1-page document. I don't like big comprehensive business plans because if it's longer than that, you look at it once a year and then you don't look at it again for the rest of the year. So the reason it's intentional to be 1 page and simple is that it's on your workspace at all times. It's visible at all times. You can look at it every single day and say, am I on track to hit this goal? Ask yourself if new opportunities match your business plan, right? We all know that new opportunities come across our desk. I don't know about you guys, but somebody is pitching me something that seems like every single day. But when I'm pitched something, I look at what are my goals for the year and are they in alignment? If they're not in alignment, I move on. So for example, we recently hired about 2 months ago a Facebook marketing ad and Google consultant. Now, when he originally pitched me, maybe a year ago, I would have had no business or no plan to work with him because my goal was not to increase my production. But as I now have a production team and we're referring out leads and we're running Google PPC ads, it now is an alignment. And so he reached out to me at the right time and it matched my business plan for the year. So it really allows you to say no to things that don't match and then really focus on the ones that you do. Define your ideal client and your plan of action. We did talk about this already, of knowing exactly who your ideal client is. Is it a first-time home buyer? Is it working with investors? Is it commercial? Is it working from somebody upgrading to their second home, or maybe they're downsizing? Who is your ideal client? Because now you can target all your marketing and your action toward that ideal client. Break down your annual sales to determine your daily tasks. So when you divide everything down, if you look in the 5th block on the Bulletproof Business Plan here, the next 12 months breakdown from GCI to operating expenses to cost of sales to your closing ratio, that's your appointments versus closed deals, have some reserves, and then how many appointments scheduled per week, how many per day, and then knowing your hourly worth. So when you break it down from annual, I want to make $200,000 a year, to now how am I going to get there? What activities should I be doing every single day to make sure that I get there? And then last but not least on here, choose no more than 4 lead generation buckets. So as Jason mentioned, I'm going to focus on KV Core and I'm going to do Property Boost. I'm going to focus on open houses. Maybe he's going to focus on door knockings or for sale by owners. Whatever those 4 lead generation buckets are, define 4 of them, no more. But when you define 4, just like, if the new opportunities match your business plan, now I'm not getting distracted by all these other shiny objects and I can just focus on these 4. And then the big questions that we've already asked ourselves, are you being a downer, dreamer, or doer? What's your big why? Add some emotion. And then know your long-term versus short-term goals. So 1-month goal, 1-year goal, 5-year goal, and then what we call the BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal. I mean, what is the biggest thing out there that if, money and time were no option, what is that you ultimately want to do? So if you can go ahead and put your email in the chat, and we'd be happy to send you these 3 documents. Okay, so what Isaac was kind of talking about was the funnel and really focusing on leads that and categorizing the leads as you should, so that way you're not wasting time with people that are not quite ready. And so this is how we kind of do it within our team. We categorize between A, B, and C. And then double A, meaning people that should be, that are actively looking, that are looking to close within the next 30 days. So when we think of like top of the lead funnels, maybe this is, door knocking, going after for sale by owners, expireds, Facebook ads, things like that. When you think of middle of the funnel, these are like my Google PPC ads, Zillow leads, realtor.com, people that have like physically asked for more information. And then, our job is to ultimately kind of work them down the funnel. So, if you generate 100 leads and your average conversion is 3%, then your 3%, your 3 closings are going to be here in double A. So your job is to take them from not interested and then kind of funnel them through to interested and then find a time frame. So of course, A, B, and C, we want to set them on some kind of automation. So C is going to be your 12 to 18 months, have your automation go like a year out, maybe more, and really have just these constant drips. So when we think about automation, we call it a drip campaign, where the system, whatever system you're using, is texting and emailing them for you. When you think middle of the funnel, these are a little bit closer, maybe the next 6 to 12 months out. And so these are also going to be set up on an automation, but you should be reaching out to them with some human contact with 2 times a month. And then bottom of the funnel is what we consider a hot lead, 30 to 90 days out, weekly human contact. And then of course, the double A's are ones that you should be having daily connection with. Now, as Isaac just mentioned about all the leads that he generates as a lender and works with agent partners, is about 25% of them are probably in the A or the double A. And so 75% of them are going to be here in B and C. So your job is to kind of funnel them through. So if we generate 100 leads, we cannot expect that we're going to have 100 people that are ready to buy in the next 30 days. Otherwise, we would all, be millionaires, right? But that's just not the way that the funnel works. So any questions on the funnel? This is just my personal team funnel. I wanted to kind of share with you guys real quick. Any questions on this before I move on? Okay, the other really important thing is to make sure you're auditing your leads. So maybe you have some leads in double A, but then for whatever reason, they have a life event and they move back up to A. So whatever system you're using to kind of categorize them, make sure you update that at least on a weekly basis. And that way, again, you're not wasting your time on people that aren't at the bottom of the funnel. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and go back here. Like I said, make sure you stick around for the whole class to get credit, as well as we're going to have a quiz at the end. Now, your mental box. This is really when we talk about, you've probably heard me already say some of these acronyms: IPA, income producing activity; MMA, money making activities; HLA, high leverage activity. Whatever it is that you want to call it, it's really important. Like, in order to push your business forward every single day, we have to be focusing on one of these. So whether you want to call it a making money activity or a high leverage activity, because the reality is we can only hold so much in our mental box. So we really have to protect what goes in our mind. And that's from anything from the news to negativity to just really anything, and not getting distracted. And that's where you keep hearing me say the word intentional. If you can be intentional in your business, a lot more is going to get done. Also, we've talked about it's important to work out of some kind of CRM every single day. I think some of you have CRMs. Some of you use more of a spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet, which is okay. That's definitely something, it's better than nothing. But at some point, you might want to kind of graduate to a more comprehensive platform. How much is it costing you by not being organized? That one is key. If you're not organized, and if it's not something that you're kind of your wheelhouse, then partner with somebody that's organized or hire somebody, because my guess is it's costing you a lot by not being organized. We're working with she's a $17 million producer, single agent. She doesn't even have a CRM. And I asked her this question. I said, how much is it costing you by not having a CRM? She's like, oh my gosh, millions, because she's literally just working with what's in front of her, where she could probably double or triple her business if she had more systems and leverage in place. What's your follow-up system? That's where we talked about the drip campaign. How can you automate it where it's working on your behalf and allowing you to focus on the income producing activities and not just all the little follow-ups that really some kind of system could work on your behalf? Are you tracking every single person and staying top of mind with them? We talked about this last week, staying top of mind. If you own the mind share, you're going to own the market share. What is the best CRM? Of course, it's the one that you will use. So there's no right or wrong. Ultimately, what's going to work best for you and your business. Now, habits of change. When we talk about accountability partner, I am a firm believer that accountability partners can help. But also, as I mentioned before, keep in mind that nobody's going to care about you and your business more than you do. So if you're not reaching your goals, you can't blame anybody else but yourself, not outside circumstances, not the market, not your brokerage, not your accountability partner. So when looking for an accountability partner, find somebody that's going to be honest. And then, of course, it needs to be a give and take, and consistency matters. So schedule it every single week. For example, you could say, hey, we're going to have a 15-minute call. Really shouldn't be longer than that. Every single Monday at 9 a.m. Create a schedule and commit. Don't be late. If you're going to be asking somebody to hold you accountable and to really help you in your business, you want to make sure that you're honoring their time. So if my call is going to be every single Monday at 9 a.m., we cannot get on the call and just start immediately with small talk. How was your weekend? How was this? How was this? Because before you know it, those 15 minutes are up like nothing. So you just got to get in and start talking about your goals, which is why we have the 3x3. Cherish your time as it's sacred, but more importantly, cherish your partner's time. So schedule daily, weekly goals and monthly goals, commitments, not goals. And the 3x3 is, I'm going to say last week. So let's say every Monday we meet, I'm going to talk about my 3 wins from the previous week, the 3 losses or mistakes or failures, and then more importantly, 3 corrections. Okay, here's what I did wrong. Here's where I lost. Here's where I went, I had a detour or I derailed. Here's how I can correct it moving forward. So we talked about the importance of thinking and really understanding, taking time to reflect and think about your business. Well, when you have the losses and the failures and things that you've already made a mistake on, and then how you can correct them, then that's going to allow you to pivot much faster when you have a detour. Your daily, weekly, and monthly commitments. Remember, we talked about commitments, not goals. How are you going to achieve them? If you know your why, then the how becomes much easier. Do they align with your business plan? So hopefully by now we have a business plan. If not, I emailed it out everybody today as a reminder. Use social accountability to your advantage and share your commitments with others that hold you personally accountable. So when I talk about social accountability, I often use Facebook, for example. If I have a new book that I'm writing or a new project or some new courses, I will throw it out on social media with a timeline before I've ever even started. So I could say, for example, who wants a copy of my free book that will be launched in September? Maybe I haven't even started yet, but if I know people are waiting for it and I've set a timeline, I'm going to hold myself much more accountable because of that social accountability. And then, of course, as we've talked about, ask yourself what will happen if you don't fulfill these commitments. Work to achieve something every day, big or small. Some days are going to be bigger wins than others, but those small little wins will compound every single day. And 12 months from now, you'll have your business in a completely different place. Use your numbers to divide and figure out what you need to be working on every day, every week, every month. And you can use a habit tracker to visually check off new tasks. So we talked about the difference between a time block schedule and a priority task list. One of the best things that you can do if you're going to use a priority task list is on a piece of paper, draw a vertical line, all the things that you want to get done for the day. And then at the end of the night, write down all the things that you got done and then mark the ones that you didn't do. And ask yourself, okay, where did I get derailed? Was I working on a true emergency or something that really just became a distraction? Where did my schedule go awry? And so that's how you can figure, you can say, I did all these things, but here's the 3 things that I didn't do. And then why did I not get these done? Analysis paralysis. If you've ever been to the Cheesecake Factory and you've seen their menu that's like about an inch thick, what happens? You just sit there and look at it because you have no idea what you want to order. That's the same thing in real estate. So you don't want to give your clients analysis paralysis. So Isaac touched on, really working with the leads that are serious, but then also when you are choosing a buyer, a lot of times your time can really be confined and drawn back if you've set it up properly, doing a buyer consult in the beginning, getting to know your client, getting to know what their needs and wants are, and then searching the marketplace and finding the very best properties for them. What a lot of us do is we skip the buyer consult because we feel like it's a waste of time. And then we go and set them up on an MLS search and they get bombarded with 100 different choices and they don't even know where to start. And then we're surprised that they want to look at 40 houses. I mean, has anybody dealt with that or is it just me? Go ahead and put a yes or no in the chat. Oops, sorry guys, I didn't mean to mute myself here. Okay, so I've got a couple yeses. All right, so here's what we do. And you can still set them up on an MLS search, but instead of just setting up and making it complicated where they're less likely to make a decision, we can sit down, do a buyer consult with them, really identify exactly what they're looking for and what's within the budget, what's to be expected, and then say, I have researched the marketplace. The homes I'm going to show you are the very best 3. So still set them up on a search because they might see something that they hadn't even thought of before, but now you're being the professional and you're showing them the best options. Then we do the law of contrast. And so the law of contrast is when you set up the showings for the very best 3, number 1, you're going to show them the least best home out of the 3 options. Number 2 is going to be ideally the one that they make an offer, which is going to be the best priced options and the most attractive. And then number 2 is the second best, reconfirming their decision that the one in the middle was the best option. Now, I know what some of you are thinking, well, that's manipulation. It's really not. What it is it's being a professional. It's getting to know your clients, choosing the best options for them, and then just putting it in proper context so they can make the best decision. The key when you sit down with them on a consult, and I showed you how we broke it down in categories, is are they just interested to purchase a sell or are they fully committed? If they're just interested and they're like, oh, well, I just like to look at houses and I don't know. No, then don't waste your time. That's not working on an income producing activity. You can even refer it out to somebody else if you want to, but work with people that are fully committed and be a professional. I don't think a physician is going to meet with someone over and over and over again if they're just thinking about having a procedure. Well, they might, but they're going to charge them. Or they're going to work with people that, what are they going to do? They're going to have a consultation. They're going to get to know you. They're going to see what kind of procedure is best for you. And then they're going to set what? They're going to set a date, right? They're going to put a target around it. So we have the 10 by 10 formula, which this class is actually coming up, is how to lead generate 100 leads in 10 days. It might actually be this Wednesday. I have to look at the schedule, but it kind of goes around some of this information, which is daily and weekly tasks that you should be doing. So just a quick rundown of the 10 by 10 is 10 posts to Craigslist every single day, 10 posts to Facebook groups and or marketplace, 10 sphere comments. So people that you like, know, and trust, whether that's your sphere of influence or sphere of power, you should have them on a private Facebook friends list. And instead of just getting stuck in the algorithm and getting stuck and distracted on Facebook, you have a friends list of your sphere, and you're very intentionally creating 10 sphere comments every single day, and hopefully 3 private conversations per day, 10 industry specific connections on LinkedIn, and then 10 outgoing check-in messages. So what is a check-in message? It's very simple. It's about a 9-word email. It's like, hey, Susie, I'm just checking in to see if you needed anything from me today, right? Simple, short. Some people say, no, I'm good. But some people say, yeah, I was actually thinking about you. I'm ready to start looking to buy or sell. So a simple check-in message every single day with people in your database is going to be huge. It was asked earlier, what social media platform should I focus on? The reality is you should be focusing on the social media platforms that your ideal client is on. So there's a lot of different social media platforms, from Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, Snapchat, all these different ones. I should only be focusing on 2 or 3. And it's not necessarily what I like, but it's what my clients like and who my ideal client is. 10 weekly activities. So 10 new Facebook friends every single week. Not only add new friends, but also private message them. If anybody adds me to Facebook, they get an automated message that I have.
Ask a question?
Sure.
I'm so sorry.
No, you're fine.
I'm following, and I'm a little confused on the 10 daily activities. How do you come up with 10 things to post on Facebook every single day? I'm like, that just seems obnoxious. Like, what do you put?
Oh, yeah. So this doesn't mean you're posting to your personal page. This is 10 posts to Facebook groups and or marketplace. So this is
But
not.
that's what I'm saying. Like, what do you, I see people who have like lots of listings or whatever, and they like reshare like their listings on different, groups and things like that. But like for me, I only have 2 listings, and one I actually put under contract last night. So,
oh, congratulations.
so I'm like, what do I put on a Facebook group if I don't have content to share?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So the
Okay.
reality is, if you've got some kind of platform, and Jillian, I can't remember what brokerage you're affiliated with, but a lot of brokerages or a lot of other agents will allow you, through the proper context in the IDX, to share their listings. So you could share listings that are not necessarily exclusively listed by you, but through our MLS, if you have the permission of the seller or the agent, you can actually share other people's, excuse me, I like a little sore throat. You can share other people's listings. And then at the very bottom, it will say, for example, courtesy of Jillian at XYZ brokerage, right? So a lot of times when you see people sharing on social media, it's not always their personal listings. Does that make sense? Are you still there?
Myself. Yes, that makes sense. I had muted myself because I had a kid that came in. Yes, that makes sense. And I have seen people do that. I am not a huge fan of posting other people's stuff, but I guess if that's how you create more activity for yourself, then I will figure out how to do it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Jillian, think about it like this. First off, if you're at a brokerage that allows it across the board for everyone, that makes it a lot easier. If not, then just ask people specifically, if they mind. I will say this, in my career, most of the time people don't mind. Every once in a while, you're going to get somebody that doesn't want you to share, which is, to each their own. But if you think about it from a seller's perspective, if I have a listing and you go share it to your sphere, wouldn't that just get me and my seller more exposure? So why wouldn't I want you to do that? That's my philosophy on it.
Every time I get asked from other agents, I'm always like, yeah, do it. Like, just do it. But I've never asked someone else to share theirs. So that, now that I understand, I'm following now. I was so lost. I was like, I don't understand what people put 10 times a day. So that makes sense.
No, I appreciate that, because that might not have been clear for other people too. So I'm glad you asked that question. While we're on this, does anybody else have any other questions?
I'd like to jump in on that. I think it's not
Sure.
always just promoting your real estate business, but also maybe promoting and sharing other people's businesses and things that they have going on that others might find interesting.
There's also a lot of material or content that you can share from the National Association of Realtors and the organizations that you're already connected with. If you go to there's usually links in like the MLS to get to even like RPR. Like they've got stuff that you can share. There's, if you go to Photofy, there's is anybody familiar with Photofy? That like you can just click and there's a quick share about realtors. Like it's a quick share. It literally takes like 10 seconds. Like while you're standing in line at the grocery store, it's just a quick share. So it's just a real quick post. If you're on like reading something and there's like a blog that you would like to share, you know, you can copy the link and then go to your post and share the link, and it'll generate that blog post, and then you can type in, you know, whatever at the top. So there's a lot of just, you know, reposting other bits of information that you didn't even have to create.
Yeah, no, I think that's great content. And, you know, the reality is even Chat GPT. So like I said, if you don't want to do listings, you could share, you know, next week is 4th of July. Where's the best places to watch fireworks in Oklahoma City? And then go in and share in some different Facebook groups and then maybe have a link back to your website, if that makes sense. Awesome. I love the collaboration. All good stuff. So we talked about the weekly activities, 10 new Facebook friends, not just add them, but also have meaningful conversations with them, you know, message them, start the conversation. 10 coffee shop conversations. This is one of the best and cheapest ways that you can get leads. Go sit in your local coffee shop, you know, put 20, 50, $100, whatever you can at the cashier and say, hey, the next 10 coffees are on me. And then what happens is once you do that, you you just have your computer, you sit down at a nearby table, hopefully your company logo or your team logo or what have you is on the back of your laptop, and you just sit there and work out of that coffee shop. So when somebody knows that you just purchased their coffee, naturally, most of the time they're going to come and say thank you and introduce themselves, and you can just strike up a conversation. Also, we talked about if open houses are one of your lead generation buckets, then do the 10 by 10 by 10, door knock 10 houses to the left, 10 houses to the right, and then 10 houses across the street. We all know that neighbors are going to come visit the open house anyway. So instead of becoming a distraction during your public open house when you're trying to actually meet potential clients, just do a 30-minute or hour in advance preview and actually invite the neighbors. They'll feel special. And that way they're not actually interrupting the public open house. 10 pop buys at local businesses. So really become the known expert at your local businesses. And then 10 private happy birthday videos. You don't have to do personalized videos if you don't want to. You could just record one and have it evergreen and it could be used across the board. But how many of you on social media, your birthday comes and you get hundreds of comments and posts, right? Well, you might not remember everybody that commented or sent you a message, but you're going to remember the one that sent you a video. So again, how can you stand out from what everybody else is doing? ROI and ROT. So there's a return on investment, return on time. You cannot imagine something that you cannot measure. So if you can't manage it, can't measure it. What's the average cost per lead? What's your conversion rate? How many leads are you closing to appointments? How many appointments turn into closing? How much time versus the return? And then of course, set realistic expectations for yourself. What is your personal freedom number? This is a big one. Do you have some great sales months and then others that aren't as good, right? That's that real estate roller coaster that we talked about. What happens is people start to get to work with some clients, they stop prospecting, then those clients close, and what happens? We become unemployed again and we start the process all over again. And that's because we have failed to consistently feed our pipeline. So you need to generate real income that could sustain you in the event that you have to live off that income. So let's add up all your expenses. Let's say you've got a house payment, car payment, insurance, food, utilities. For sake of example, that's $5,000 a month. So how can you create an income that's over $5,000 a month where your passive income is more than what your expenses are? And that's what's called your freedom number. So you add up all your expenses to determine what you need to make on a residual income. I think a couple of you are investors. Obviously, that's a great way, but there's other ways that you can do that as well, which that's a whole nother class. So leverage and delegation, know your worth. What is your hourly worth? How many listings can you properly handle? What items can you delegate? These are like showing assistants, transaction coordinators, virtual assistants, licensed assistants. You, instead of hiring an assistant, you can delegate using systems like Fiverr or shared virtual assistants, more of like a task-oriented thing. How much are you giving up in time and money by not leveraging? The reality is we all have the same 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Some of us are just leveraging better than others. So time is only an excuse. If you say that I don't have enough time, that just means it's not a priority for you. Create a duplicatable workflow. If your hourly worth, let's say, is $115 an hour, should you be doing $10 an hour in activities? Probably not. So at that point, you start documenting all the things that would be $10 an hour activities, and you can hire an assistant, a virtual assistant, or delegate those tasks. These could include, again, showing assistants, data entry, transaction management, marketing, contract entry, appointment scheduling, etc. Make your systems duplicatable. You can do this by kind of documenting everything that you do, in turn creating a team manual, or as it's mentioned earlier, have ChatGPT help you create this, or an SOP, a standard operations manual for everyone to follow. Leverage, partner with affiliates to increase your ad spend. So again, check with your broker on local guidelines. But a lot of agents will put an ad spend or a budget and then see if one of their preferred partners will match that. Not only will they match it, but they'll also try to help you convert those leads because it's a win-win across all sides. Time blocking and self-management. We talked about either creating a time block schedule or task list and taking time to really think and reflect. So I think that one's kind of a repeat of what we've already talked about. Massive action, 10 extra efforts, 10 extra results. It's as easy as that. Overflow your pipeline, make prospecting a priority to drive results. Track your conversion rate, track your hourly worth, your return on investment, commit to daily activity, update and work out of your CRM. We are all in an uncertain future, but doing all these different things will bring your own certainty. So when you see the iceberg here, you see the success, you see the tip of the iceberg, and you're like, oh, that person's so lucky. They have all these clients and they're a top producer in my office. What you don't see is all these different things that they've done to get there. The hard work, the persistence, the late nights, the rejections, the sacrifices, the discipline, the criticism, the doubt, failure, risk. We've all been there. But if you can pursue and get through these things, then now you can come up the top with your success.